I know what you're all thinking. What does one wear to a slave quarters sleepover? I'm not the kind of person who reads the entire email or opens attachments. I'm sure the answer to this was somewhere in there. But no matter, I've arrived on Huguenot Street in my zip-off pants and light leggings underneath. I've got a sweatshirt in my backpack, and I'm hoping that I brought everything I'll need tonight. I genuinely have no idea what to expect. I'm anxious about whether or not my 18-year-old nephew understands why I insisted that this is how we spend our weekend. From the parking lot, I can already hear the not-so-distant sound of several beating drums. I start to throw myself around and dance a little bit to entertain him and to get him to loosen up a bit. As this is happening, an adorable white older lesbian couple stops to tell us how much they are also enjoying the drums. I relax even more. This is New Paltz after all. Nothing much has changed. I feel confident it won't be too different from any other event I've been to here before. I'm from here. I was one of maybe 25 kids of color in the district, maybe one of 6 in my class. I'm confident if I knocked on every door in my old neighborhood, I would not come across a single family that wasn't white. It's like there's an invisible barrier that keeps people of color out or relegated to Colonial Arms, Southside, and Meadowbrook. Growing up, I played in the Huguenot Cemetery as a child. We came here on field trips. As I walk towards the celebration, I try and remember what I know about this place. Did I ever learn about the history of the Huguenots? Yeah, I remember that. Did they talk about slavery in reference to the Huguenots? No, I have no recollection of that. As an adult, I obviously know there must have been slaves here, but before this moment, I had never given it much thought. As my nephew and I walk between the houses towards the big white tent, I feel curious. I know next to nothing about my family, where we come from, or what we are. Was I a fearless leader who beat up bullies on the playground because I'm a descendant of Harriet Tubman? Is my ability to pick out the most expensive thing in any room because I'm really African royalty? Have I always longed to find whoever my real family is because there is some tribe somewhere waiting for me to make my way back home? There are so many things I just don't know. It's no surprise I have zero connection to my heritage and never showed much interest in learning it. We push away that which is painful, and understanding who I am and where I come from has always been painful. You know those family tree assignments you get in elementary school? Though I had a mom and a half-brother and a father and grandparents that I had met on occasion, we never really functioned like a family. So my assignments were always made up of my favorite celebrities. I never knew anything about my family or ethnicity, and when I was home, I mostly was parked in front of the TV, so I credited Julia Roberts, Allison Janney, Calista Flockhart, and Lucy Lawless among the people who raised me. These actresses raised me, the church raised me, the Hudson Valley raised me. They are who I see in my mind's eye when I think of who makes up my identity. So because of all of that, not really knowing anyone who was Black then or now, I have never stopped to think about racism or slavery or how it relates to my history or my life now. I've never really had a reason to. I briefly acknowledge this and think about how this is part of my privilege. As I say hello to the people at the Juneteenth celebration, grab food and sit down, I think, how do you move forward without knowing where you really come from? I'm Black. I carry the color of my skin out into the world with me. Sometimes it's a burden, and sometimes it's a badge. I want to understand it more so it can be more of a badge than a burden. The media's portrayal of being Black is all the information I've ever had. It's hard for me, and probably a lot of other people, to identify myself in that light. I focus on the fact that I was well-educated, well-spoken, graduated high school without becoming pregnant, got my degree, traveled all over the world, never really worried about debt. How could I do that and be Black at the same time? I need to address this identity, this part of my life, even though I've told everyone that I'm here for my nephew and his growth. I'm really here for myself too. When we've had a minute to take in the Juneteenth celebration, it's different than I thought it would be. I expected it to be more like a fair with tents and people passing stuff out. I didn't expect it to be an actual ceremony. I can't believe I'm not one of only 2 or 3 Black people occupying the space, or that this event is celebrating Black History in a month other than February. I'm in New Paltz, sitting at a table full of Black people, and all around me, there are just more Black people. I wonder what the white people think as they pass by on the street. I've never seen this many Black people in the same space outside of Poughkeepsie. Is this even legal? Why has it happened this way? New Paltz is progressive. We're not celebrating Christopher Columbus Day anymore, right? There's an amazing surge chapter in the Hudson Valley, and so many people have shown their support for Black Lives Matter, yet we're still so segregated. The Juneteenth program consists of the African drummers who were playing when we arrived, Terry James, a board member of the Slave Dwelling Project, Kim Harris, a folk singer who sings the songs that tell of African American history. This is what I imagine being in a Black church is like. As Eva speaks on behalf of the TMI Project and lists the names of some of the Black men who have been murdered, you can see the pain on people's faces. Some are still, others have their head down. Most of them are older and have a deeper connection to the history of slavery and the consequences still playing out today. I notice there's no mention of any Black women who've faced the same fate. Even in this space, we have to work on that. When Kim begins to sing, you can feel the whole room shift. People are singing along and clapping. Others have tears coming from their closed eyes. You can tell they are remembering. It's nice to watch the old Black ladies' faces light up at familiar songs. I feel glad that I didn't pass up this experience, this connection to my heritage, for another weekend on the couch. I'm surprised by all the connections I can make to this event and everyone around me now that I'm trying. I realize that I know more than I think I do about the history of African Americans. I actually do know a lot of the words to the songs Kim sings. I know them because my mother used to sing them, and I'm sure her mother used to sing them to her. That's something. It's comforting in a way. It makes me feel like I did have something passed to me from generations past. When I finally got away from my family, I couldn't put enough distance between me and them. I pushed them away so hard that I didn't recognize I was pushing away a big part of myself in the process. My connection to my Blackness might be flimsy because of my lack of connection to my family, but it's there. I'm not sure how to fix it, but I'm here and I'm trying. For now, it's nice to chat with people at the table who look like me and be able to share something that feels important with the younger generation of my family. I realize now more than ever how important it is to me that my nephew's here. After the celebration, we set up our sleeping bags in the cellar and head out to join Terry around the fire. There are only 8 of us now. We pass around fruit to share, and Terry tells us what he knows about the history of the slaves. He knows so much. I focus in on one particular fact Terry shares. Did you know that if a Black woman got pregnant as the result of being raped by her slave owner, the baby was kept and classified as a slave? But if a white woman became pregnant with a Black man's child, the baby could be cut from the woman's stomach and stomped on or smothered at birth? Most people have never really heard anything like that. As we walked back to the house where we're going to spend the night, I think about the article I recently read about Germany. The Germans continue to atone for every single tragedy they were ever involved in, and not just with I'm sorry, but with reparations. We, on the other hand, have adopted the attitude, if it doesn't directly have anything to do with our lives, it doesn't matter. Then we wonder why we never make any progress, why slavery continues to morph instead of heal. Isn't a permanent resolution better than ignoring the problem until it's blowing up in our faces, in our homes, in our communities? It's hard work. For me, the process has been confusing, to say the least. I can't quite connect myself to a lineage of Africans, people who were taken from their homes against their will, put on a ship with little or no provisions, sold in a foreign land to be beaten, raped, sold again, and hanged, who were later put down at every turn and now watch as their appropriated culture is co-opted, profited off of, and yet they're still seen as less than. On the other hand, I can't quite connect to the white part, the culture that raised me, stole the Africans from their homeland, took everything they had from their names to their bodies, who now march on Charlottesville and routinely kill unarmed black people, or those who ignore any of this is happening. The definition of insanity is to repeatedly do the same thing and expect different results. I don't expect myself or any of us to figure this out overnight, but we have to start doing things differently. If you think about the history of poverty, the prison system, and race relations, really think about where those things started and where we are, it's kind of mind-blowing. We're basically in the same spot with nicer sneakers and better movies. I'm committing tonight to be different. As I fall asleep and reflect on where I am, the journal entry I wrote, and the others I heard, my final thought is, black or white, rich or poor, we are all slaves to the system, and after 150 years, it's time for us to acknowledge our chains and break free.